I'm David Skidmore. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking again about ostinatos, those short, repetitive musical figures that are used to accompany a melody. Last time when we talked about ostinatos, the ostinato was played entirely by one hand while the other hand played the melody. But in today's lesson, both hands will share the ostinato, with the right hand occasionally breaking off from the ostinato to play a melodic figure. We'll be combining three stroke types in this lesson: double vertical strokes, double lateral strokes, and single independent strokes. As we discussed in the last lesson, most of the marimba music that you play won't have just one stroke type, but will be a combination of many stroke types. So all of our lessons from here forward will be combining multiple stroke types. If you need to review any of the stroke types, of course, you can go back to one of the earlier lessons in this series. Because we're going to be talking about ostinatos, we'll also be talking about independence between the hands. So we're going to be using dynamics to clearly show the audience which part of the music is the accompaniment and which part is the melody. And last but not least, we'll also be introducing a new stroke type today, the one-handed roll. The first exercise will warm up our hands and get us comfortable playing the ostinato that continues throughout most of this etude. I'm going to start by doubling each measure of this exercise. Pay attention to the placement of your mallets on the bar and your body position as you're playing this exercise. Notice how when the left hand moves to the F sharp and B, my left elbow has to go out so that I can still be playing in the ideal playing spot on both of these bars. That would be the edge of the bar for the F sharp on the upper manual and towards the center of the bar on the B natural and the lower manual. Now play the exercise as written. Be sure that the dynamics are matching between your hands. It should sound as though you're using two hands to create one voice. As we said, the melody in this etude is played by the right hand, and we need to use dynamics to clearly show the audience when that melody is happening. Warm-up number 2 asks you to continue the ostinato figure in your left hand while your right hand breaks off and plays a melodic figure. You'll notice that the exercises and etude in this lesson do not indicate a sticking, and this is actually very common in marimba music. So what you'll need to do is, as you're learning the notes in the exercises and the etude, determine what sticking works best for you. For the purposes of this exercise that we're working on right now, let's play it first with the number 3 mallet in the right hand. Be sure that you're observing these dynamics that are written in the exercise so that that right hand is clearly heard as the melody. Now let's try the same exercise using the number 4 mallet in the right hand. And check out my mallet position. I have to be careful of exactly how my mallets are situated because both of my hands are sharing the same register of the marimba. Let's move on to the third exercise. This exercise is very similar to the second exercise, except that now your right hand is going to be playing dyads throughout, or 2 notes at a time. This requires a little bit more coordination, so just be sure to start nice and slow. Once again, pay attention to the placement of my mallets on the bars and my body position. Because these dyads in the right hand are split between the upper manual and the lower manual, it means that my elbow is occasionally going to have to move so that I can hit these intervals. This exercise is a little bit tricky at first, and in fact, it's a little bit trickier than anything that happens in the Etude that's a part of this lesson. But it's great practice, and once you've mastered this exercise, the Etude will probably seem like a breeze in comparison. Just take it nice and slow, and you can even take it a few notes at a time if you want. Now we need to practice having the right hand go back and forth between being a part of the ostinato and coming to the foreground as part of the melodic material. Take a look at warm-up exercise number 4. Here you see that right hand going back and forth between blending with the left hand in the ostinato and playing melodic material. Also pay attention to the dynamics that are indicated. There's an LH for the left hand dynamic and an RH for the right hand dynamic, and you'll see those similar indications throughout the Etude. Start slow and focus on your stick heights. Remember that stick heights equal dynamics. And the way that you're going to create independence between these different voices that are happening simultaneously in the music is by controlling the dynamics and therefore the stick heights. Now let's take this idea of independence one step further by creating musical phrases in the right hand with subtle changes in dynamics and stick heights, while the left hand stays nice and steady in that ostinato pattern. Each of these variations on the phrasing exercise I'm achieving just by thinking about stick heights. I'm thinking about a nice, low, even stick height in my left hand for the ostinato and a fluctuating stick height in my right hand to create the musical phrases that I want to create. In the last part of today's lesson, we'll be introducing a new stroke type, the one-handed roll. A one-handed roll is basically just a series of single alternating strokes that happen quick enough to create a sustained tremolo effect. The one-handed roll that's a part of this lesson happens just once at the end of the Etude, and it happens on pitches B and D sharp in the left hand. There's a simple exercise in your book that you can use to practice this new technique. Practice this exercise using both hands. Even though the one-handed roll that's a part of this lesson is in your left hand, you want to go ahead and introduce this new technique to both hands. So start slowly with this exercise. Be sure to stay nice and relaxed as you're working on this technique. One thing that I like to remember is that my hands stay very relaxed as I'm doing this, and the motion is just created by a turn of the wrist, just like you're turning a doorknob really fast. When we talked about traditional marimba rolls in an earlier lesson, I mentioned that the goal is not to just go as fast as you can possibly go all the time. And the same is true for one-handed rolls. In fact, the one-handed roll that's in this Etude is quiet, the dynamic is pianissimo, and it's in the middle register of the marimba where the bars are still nice and resonant. So a medium roll speed will be plenty fast enough to create the desired effect. We'll be discussing one-handed rolls much more in a future lesson, but for now, this is your introduction to that new technique. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.